breaking news as we come on the air. The wildfire emergency in the West, urgent evacuations ordered, and sabotage in France as the Paris Olympics get underway. First stunning images coming in, the fast-moving park fire in Northern California. The fire creating a twister of smoke and flames. More than 130 homes and structures destroyed. Thousands more threatened. Many residents forced to take back roads to escape. More than 100 large fires burning at this hour. And authorities confirming a pilot killed when a firefighting plane went down in Oregon. Kayna Whitworth on the fire lines. An alarming attack just hours before the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. 3 major rail lines in France sabotaged. Fires set, cables cut. Authorities calling it a massive coordinated attack. The damage expected to affect more than 800,000 people over the weekend. James Longman in Paris. The race for the White House, Donald Trump hosts Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. Their first meeting in more than 3 years. The relationship strained after the 2020 election, and it comes 24 hours after Netanyahu's meetings with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. And the vice president wrapping up her first week on the campaign trail. Harris getting a major endorsement from Barack and Michelle Obama. As Republican vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance comes under fire for his comments accusing Democrats of being anti-family and anti-child. Tonight, the dramatic takedown of a major drug cartel responsible for shipping thousands of pounds of cocaine, meth, and fentanyl into the U.S. 2 of the cartel's top leaders now under arrest, including El Chapo's son. How federal authorities lured them into the U.S. New video showing a small plane crashing into the front yard of a home, stopping just before the door. Neighbors rushing over to help the victims on board. Team USA and the world on display during the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. And under the glow of the Eiffel Tower, Celine Dion makes her powerful, much-anticipated comeback.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Friday night. I'm Whit Johnson in for David. And we begin with the wildfire emergency in the West. More than 100 large fires raging in a dozen states. Thousands forced to evacuate. Some homes already lost. And air quality alerts for millions. California's Park Fire racing across 278 square miles, an area larger than Chicago. This time-lapse capturing its massive fire whirl, spinning like a tornado. The flames devouring homes and other structures, at least 134 destroyed, more than 4,000 people under mandatory evacuation orders. This car, overtaken by fire, exploding in a ball of flames. Firefighters struggling to get the upper hand in terrible conditions. Massive tankers battling the flames from the air. And tonight, a sad loss at the scene of another fire in eastern Oregon. A single-engine air tanker going down, taking the life of the pilot. ABC's Kayna Whitworth leads us off in Butte County, California.
Tonight, apocalyptic scenes of destruction as the fast-moving park fire rages out of control. California fire officials say at least 134 homes and other buildings have been burned to the ground. Thousands more threatened. The fire doubling in size overnight. Cal Fire using every available asset. These massive DC-10s dumping waves of retardant on flames.
Look at right there. So they're doing major phos check drops in this area because this fire continues to jump its major containment lines. So they're relying heavily on this air attack right now.
More than 4,000 already under evacuation orders, and that number growing by the hour.
You have to be prepared to go.
Firefighters from all over the state working 36-hour shifts. Our Jacqueline Lee at base camp.
When you're on the front lines, what are you seeing?
We're seeing, it's walls of fire. It's extreme fire behavior. It's very hot. We're seeing a lot of civilians who are scared for their homes.
Paul and Janet Mallory made it out safely. The last they heard, their home was still standing.
I couldn't believe it because I was fully prepared that our house was gone, and I just thought, it's a house. We're safe. We're alive.
And now, warnings for paradise. The town devastated by the 2018 Camp Fire, the deadliest wildfire in California history. Authorities say the park fire was started on purpose by 42-year-old convicted sex offender Ronnie Stout, allegedly setting his mother's Toyota Yaris on fire and pushing it down an embankment. He's being held without bail. Authorities in eastern Oregon finding a firefighting plane today. It had gone missing near the Falls fire. The pilot did not survive.
And you can see there behind me, this hill just erupted in flames and the trees are topping out. So those flames are now going to the top of the trees and the wind is pushing it this way. A major concern for firefighters as this runs uphill. This fire behavior has been described as aggressive and angry in all the right places, burning parts of the forest that hasn't burned in decades.
Yes, those blowing embers, another concern in all of this. Kayna, thank you. Overseas tonight, the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics went off as planned, despite a coordinated attempt to disrupt it. The first ever opening ceremony outside a stadium, amplifying the security challenge, with athletes sailing down the River Seine on boats. Hours earlier, arsonists attacked multiple high-speed train lines, what French authorities are calling sabotage. No one yet has claimed responsibility. ABC's James Longman from Paris tonight.
Tonight, coordinated arson attacks on the French rail system have caused travel chaos just hours before the opening ceremony in Paris. French authorities have called it an act of sabotage to cut off critical rail routes into the city from all directions. Incendiary devices set fire to signal boxes along 3 of France's most important high-speed train lines. It'll impact more than 800,000 people through the weekend. A 4th arson attempt in the south thwarted by rail workers who scared off several suspects.
The police force are looking after, of course, the people who have committed this assault against the French network.
2 out of 4 trains carrying athletes to Paris were stopped hours before the ceremony. Some athletes were even turned back because of the closures. Commuter Lou Flippo was caught in the chaos with her 2 young children stuck in Montparnasse train station for hours. She says she's very stressed and scared. So far, no claim of responsibility tonight, but it comes after French authorities say they've already foiled several plots to disrupt the Summer Games. Authorities closing 90 miles of airspace over Paris for the opening ceremony, which for the first time ever took place outside a stadium along the River Seine. 75,000 security personnel on guard as a flotilla of 85 boats carried thousands of athletes nearly 4 miles west down the river. In torrential rain, they sailed past iconic landmarks, including Notre Dame Cathedral, the Louvre, and finally, the Eiffel Tower.
James Longman joining us now from Paris. And James, I want to go back to that massive attack on the French rail system. How long could these travel disruptions last?
Yeah, this is really causing major issues. It's likely to go through the weekend. Huge numbers of engineers are now working night and day to get those rail tracks fixed. It looks like disruption is going to last until at least Monday.
Something to watch in the coming days. James Longman for us. Thank you. Meantime, back here in the U.S., Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu traveling to Mar-a-Lago to meet with former President Trump, mending their relationship shaken after Netanyahu recognized that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. The meeting 24 hours after Netanyahu met with President Biden and Vice President Harris, and Trump criticizing his new opponent. Here's ABC's Terry Moran.
Today, a warm greeting from Donald Trump for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago. The 2 men meeting face to face after 3 years of frosty relations, ever since Netanyahu congratulated Joe Biden for beating Trump in 2020, infuriating Trump, who to this day denies he lost that election. Trump and Netanyahu briefly took questions in a darkly lit room. The Prime Minister was asked about the ceasefire hostage release deal in Gaza that's been in the works for nearly 2 months.
Do you feel like after this trip, Mr. Prime Minister, we're any closer to a ceasefire deal?
I hope so, but I think time will tell. We're certainly eager to have one, and we're working on it. Mr. President.
The Mar-a-Lago meeting comes 1 day after Netanyahu was in the White House meeting with the president and Vice President Kamala Harris over ceasefire efforts. Harris telling Netanyahu it's time for this war to end.
Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters.
Harris has been trying to walk a fine line, supporting Biden's negotiating efforts and Israel's right to defend itself, while lamenting the terrible toll the war has taken on Gaza and its people.
We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
Netanyahu was asked how Harris's remarks may have impacted negotiations on the deal.
I think to the extent that Hamas understands that there's no daylight between Israel and the United States, that expedites the deal. And I would hope that those comments don't change that.
Trump weighing in, blasting Harris as a, quote, radical and a destroyer.
I think her remarks were disrespectful. They weren't very nice pertaining to Israel.
And tonight, Donald Trump announcing that he will go back to Pennsylvania, back to Butler, Pennsylvania, the very site where he survived an assassination attempt 2 weeks ago. Trump saying that he will be holding a rally in part to honor the memory of Corey Comparator, the firefighter who was killed in that shooting, as well as to support the other 2 victims who were badly wounded. Whit?
Terry Moran for us. Thank you. And Vice President Kamala Harris getting a major new endorsement tonight. Former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama supporting her run for the White House. And as Harris tightens her hold on the Democratic nomination, the Trump campaign is now having second thoughts about a debate. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang.
Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris wrapping up her first week on the campaign trail and locking in a crucial endorsement.
Kamala!
Hello. Hi! Former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama throwing their weight behind Harris's campaign.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
It comes as Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, faces backlash over remarks he made 3 years ago about Kamala Harris and other Democratic leaders.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives.
In newly resurfaced comments first reported by ABC, Vance argued people without children should pay higher taxes.
We need to reward the things that we think are good and punish the things that we think are bad. If you're making $100,000, $400,000 a year, and you've got 3 kids, you should pay a different, lower tax rate than if you're making the same amount of money and you don't have any kids. It's that simple.
Today, Vance doubling down, defending his past remarks.
This is not about criticizing people who, for various reasons, didn't have kids. This is about criticizing the Democratic Party for becoming anti-family and anti-child.
The Biden administration supports expanding the child tax credit again, but the effort has stalled amid opposition from some Republicans in Congress. With this race now reset, Harris says she wants to debate Donald Trump.
I'm ready. Let's go.
But after agreeing to a second debate with President Biden, the Trump campaign now backtracking, saying it would be inappropriate to schedule things with Harris because Democrats very well could still change their minds. Harris calling Trump out on his own words, asking what happened to debating anytime, any place when the candidate was President Biden.
Selena Wang back with us now. And Selena, you're also learning about a phone call Vice President Harris made today.
That's right, Whit. We're learning the vice president called the family of Sonia Massey. This is the woman who was shot and killed in her Springfield, Illinois home earlier this month by a deputy who was responding to her 911 call. Her family says that Harris expressed to them her heartfelt condolences and let them know that she is with them, calling this a senseless killing. Whit.
All right, Selena, our thanks to you tonight. Now to that major victory for U.S. law enforcement. 2 kingpins of a vicious Mexican drug cartel are under arrest. They boarded a plane they thought was bound for a Mexican airfield. Instead, they landed near El Paso, Texas. One suspect is among the founders of the Sinaloa drug cartel. The other is a son of the notorious drug lord El Chapo. Here's ABC's Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, 2 leaders of the world's most vicious and prolific drug cartel now in U.S. custody. One of the co-founders of the Sinaloa cartel, Ismael Zambada, known as El Mayo, and the son of the notorious drug lord El Chapo, Joaquin Guzman Lopez, were arrested near El Paso, Texas, in what can only be described as a clever trap.
The Justice Department will not rest until every single cartel leader, member, and associate responsible for poisoning our communities is held accountable.
According to sources familiar with the investigation, Zambada was lured on a trip he thought was to inspect airfields in northern Mexico. But it turned out to be a flight to an airstrip inside the U.S. near El Paso. Agents of Homeland Security Investigations and the FBI were there to arrest him when he landed. Sources telling ABC News El Mayo, who pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking charges at his first court appearance today in El Paso, was tricked by someone he trusted. Authorities declined to offer additional reportable details. And tonight we've learned that El Chapo's son was secretly flown to Chicago. His status unclear. Overnight, officials at the FBI, Homeland Security, the DEA, and Justice Department headquarters celebrated the stunning operation. The Sinaloa cartel is responsible for shipping thousands of pounds of cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl into the U.S. every single day. Fentanyl killing tens of thousands of Americans each year.
U.S. officials hope the arrest of the two leaders will cause chaos and hamper the cartel. But they privately admit, it's a hard organization to kill.
Pierre Thomas for us, a remarkable operation and arrest today. Appreciate it. And on the economy tonight, an upbeat note to end the week. The Dow surging 654 points, more than 1.6%. The NASDAQ and S&P also showed gains. It comes on strong corporate earnings and a new report showing inflation easing, strengthening hopes for a September interest rate cut. When we come back, the county declaring a disaster, reporting 61 earthquakes in just the last 7 days. And the harrowing video, a small plane crashing into a front yard, the neighbors running to help. Next tonight, new video emerging showing a harrowing plane crash in the front yard of a house in Roy, Utah. Home surveillance video showing the plane slamming into the ground, and there you see just steps away from the front door, neighbors rushing over to help out. 2 people on board were treated for head injuries. Authorities investigating a fire at a Baptist church in Dallas, the second church fire in a week. Flames and heavy smoke breaking through the roof of the Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, at least 1 firefighter injured. Just last week, you'll remember the historic chapel at First Baptist Church of Dallas was all but destroyed by fire. The cause of both fires under investigation. When we come back, the county hit by 61 earthquakes in 7 days, officials declaring a disaster, and the Paris Olympics start with a gold medal performance. To the index tonight, Scurry County, Texas, declaring a disaster following a staggering 61 earthquakes in 7 days. County officials say the strongest earthquake of the week was felt today, a magnitude 5.1 quake near Snyder, Texas. It's about 80 miles southeast of Lubbock. Some damage reported, but no injuries. It was one of the strongest earthquakes in state history. Boar's Head recalling more than 200,000 pounds of deli meat because of possible listeria contamination. 34 people have been sickened in at least 12 states. The outbreak blamed for at least 2 deaths as well. The recall includes Boar's Head beef, salami, bologna, and liverwurst. When we come back, Celine Dion makes her comeback in Paris. Finally tonight, the Olympic Games and the comeback worthy of a gold medal.
Tonight, the extraordinary display, an incredible comeback. Celine Dion taking the stage on the Eiffel Tower with a powerful, emotional performance. The grand finale of the 2024 Summer Olympics opening ceremony in Paris, marking her first live performance since announcing her diagnosis with stiff person syndrome 2 years ago and sharing her battle publicly. The crowd, the world, cheering. It was a spectacular end to the ceremony, which started with a giant plume of blue, white, and red smoke, the colors of the French flag. The Olympic rings hanging on the Eiffel Tower. The ceremony, a first for the Olympic Games, held not in a stadium, but on a river. More than 10,000 athletes sailing down the heart of Paris on the Seine. NBA star LeBron James and tennis champ Coco Gauff flag bearers for Team USA. More than 300,000 spectators watching in the rain, wearing ponchos. Crew teams trying to dry the stage. It's the first time it's rained during a Summer Olympics opening ceremony in more than 70 years. But it didn't stop the athletes or fans from celebrating. Along the way, the performances. Lady Gaga singing in French. Afterward, writing online, "Congratulations to all the athletes who are competing in this year's Olympic Games. It is my supreme honor to sing for you and cheer you on." Tonight, the Olympic flag raised, along with the flags of the participating countries, more than 200. The United States with the most athletes, nearly 600 in all, as the Summer Olympic Games officially begin.
And that Celine Dion performance was truly special. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.